I'm somewhat of a game connoisseur. I love to buy games. I love to buy game collections. I love to buy collector's editions. I've got a huge collection of like collector's editions of games, so much so that a lot of it is put away in storage to this day. One thing for sure, if that pretty much won't change, is when people ask me what my favorite era of gaming is. Now, listen, my first console was a NES, and it was a couple years after the fact or whatever, but I've been gaming for a long time, needless to say. And I have one thing to say when people ask me what was your favorite console generation and time to game and why, and I'm very honest and upfront about that. The Xbox 360 era was my absolute favorite, and for multiple reasons. First of all, we got achievements introduced. We got we had the party chats introduced. Online gaming and online entertainment all took a step forward. If you think about it, we didn't have anything like Netflix or any of that stuff on our consoles. We used our consoles strictly for gaming. And some people might go, well, wasn't it better that way? No, I like to use this thing that I'm spending all this money on, and we drop a lot of money on these things. I want to use it as much as possible. Right? So whether it's watching DVDs or whatever, I made sure to get the most out of my console, and it's always connected. And that's why I didn't have a big issue with Xbox One things. Now, Sony has gone out and tried to sabotage and have successfully sabotaged what Microsoft was trying to do. Obviously, things were much easier back then. We had a lot of great games from Xbox. We had a lot of great games from PlayStation. We had the Wii. It was innovative. There was enough pie for all. And that's when you get the most innovation. Right now, it's like you have PlayStation dominating things, going behind Microsoft's back, talking to third-party companies, really kind of screwing them out of being able to get to play anything. And it's really unfortunate that this type of stuff is happening. Now, I think that Microsoft has come a long way in ending some of the doubts and things that people had about Xbox, but it's still very confusing for some people. They just think, oh, well, gaming, PlayStation, right? Like Xbox hasn't had that spot since the Xbox 360 era. And what I found was most interesting is when you look at what Sony's been doing, they literally are sort of sabotaging Microsoft's efforts at every sort of turn. Now, a good way to kind of explain exactly why this has happened or give an example of this. So they really ran off PlayStation really ran off Sega. They ran Sega out of the console business. They ran off Nintendo. Nintendo can't come in with a hardcore console and compete. They just wouldn't. They don't have the fan base worldwide. They don't have the money. They don't have the facility to really go out and do that. So if they came out with the console just as powerful as the PS5, it wouldn't do nearly as well. It would probably do even worse than the Xbox Series consoles. And essentially that could possibly kill off Nintendo. So what do? They pivot and they started doing, stuff like the Switch, which has been highly successful for them. Now, Microsoft, they had to pivot too. And what they were trying to do, buy Call of Duty, have a successful mobile, Sony tries to block them, and it's ridiculous. And what's even more ridiculous is we see that this is happening, and now we see exactly why. So according to this, and we see like the leaked documents and stuff that comes out, it says stuff. Exactly. Xbox. No. Players shouldn't expect Final Fantasy 16 to be on any Xbox Series X or S or Xbox One, and the reason is a weird one. In the ongoing conflict between Sony and Microsoft, it has been revealed in release documentation from CMA 3.67 that Sony has signed deals with third-party developers to stop them from working with Microsoft specifically. Square Enix has permission to work with others. Presumably this would be after a 6-month exclusivity period, but Microsoft and the Xbox specifically is off limits. The exact details of the exclusion are not clear yet, but it means that third-party games made for Sony likely won't be on Xbox at all anytime in the near future. It may not be on it at all. So again, this is something that we're looking at and we go, how is this even possible? And then yet Microsoft gets completely thrown under the bus by the CMA, right? They're all about competition, but the CMA was ignorant in the first place because it's all over cloud computing games, and Microsoft can only cloud compute in the UK to 5,000 people. Think about that for a second. 5,000 people. That's it. It's unbelievable. And so even though that's the main reason why they ended this discussion, and they ended it, the buyout, they ended the ability for Microsoft to go out there and pick up Activision, over 5,000 people streaming games. That's not the real reason. The real reason is protecting the market leader. Sony has sabotaged all of this stuff. I've never seen people go out of their way to support the market leader and protect them from competition the way that I have with the way that these companies are doing to Sony, right? No wonder Microsoft could do it. Listen, this is direct quote. It's all about potential concern about what could become of cloud streaming of games. Like you see the streaming of movies on a network like Netflix. But this business is so small that Microsoft can't even stream games to more than 5,000 people at a time in the entirety of the United Kingdom. So for regulators to step in and seek to torpedo a $68 billion global traction of a concern of a part of a business that is so small, and to reject so many proposals to try and address their concern, at least people worried, and at least people thinking that actually the process in Brussels worked far better than what we are now to address in London. So 5,000 people, over 5,000 people, that's it. Look, cloud gaming is never going to have the traction, right? It's not. Like, people don't like playing cloud games. So again, this is all they might go... Because if they would have went out and tried to say, oh, well, it's anti-competitive to Sony, blah, 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 I think any court that has any kind of salt in themselves or tries to be fair would take a harsh look at that if they tried to say, well, no, it wouldn't be fair to Sony. Well, Sony's got 70% of the market. How the hell wouldn't that have been fair to them? So they use this other thing because it's not as well known, right? But cloud gaming has been around for decades. And it hasn't taken off. In fact, it's gone down. It's not going up. It's going in the opposite directions. So again, how is this fair to Microsoft? It obviously isn't having to do with what they're saying. It's having to do with the whole Sony situation. And I'm not saying that Sony greased hands or anything like that. That's silly. But it is people protecting Sony and Sony's interests over everything else. And I find that to be ludicrous and extreme, and I do hope that they change their minds or something happens, but I sort of doubt that that's going to happen at this point. It's just one of those things where what can Microsoft do to go out there and be competitive now? Well, I feel like Microsoft needs to go out, and the first thing that I would do is I would make it so you can play online games with no gold, no Game Pass. You don't need either of those things, right? So take it back old school. PlayStation requires you to pay monthly for the privilege to play online. Microsoft does as well, but gold is draconian. It's old school. It's not needed anymore. Let people play their multiplayer games for free. This is going to lead you to goodwill, to more people adopting Game Pass anyway, and I think that would be a good start. You address that. Get back into announcing the backwards compatibility games. Get a new wave of those going. 360, original Xbox, whatever you have to do. Maybe lower the prices a little bit of your consoles at some point. Maybe bundle in some games. I think that these are the things you have to do. You have to start releasing some of these games, getting people excited for it. So I think even if you have to buy, and I'm not a big fan of the third-party stuff, like buying third-party stuff, but maybe you go that route for a little bit. I don't know. You have to do something to get people intrigued and back on Xbox's side, because it seems like a lot of people are anti-Xbox, and not only anti-Xbox but anti-Microsoft. You know, it's kind of weird to say the least, but I hope that this stuff changes, because I do believe in Microsoft, and I think that Sony, even though they're trying to torpedo what Xbox is trying to do, I think that Microsoft can overcome it if they try hard enough and if they want it. So it's really going to be come down to the content, and I think that they can have something special. So I hope that's what we get. So with that being said, I am the Crap Gamer, and this has been Crap Gamer Reviews. I thank each and every one of you. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoy the content, and let me know what you'd like to see in the future, as I always try to, do something to entertain you. So thank you for watching. Rack 'em up. Have a great day.